Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism, back with another live video for you today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I do appreciate it greatly, as always. Shout out first to my patrons, as always, who are the ones who make this channel possible. So thank you guys so much. If you want to join them, you can do so easily by going to patreon.com/Jeranism. But always a big shout out to them. Without them, this channel wouldn't be here. So thank you guys for joining me. We do have a special show today, a little interview, a Plain Truth interview with Shelley Lewis. So Shelley, are you there?
Hey, Jaron. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, glad you're here. Thank you for joining me. It's great to hear your voice, and I've heard a couple interviews with you so far, and I thought that you've done great work, continue to do great work. I love some of the work that you've done with Jamie, right, from The Flat Truth.
Yeah, Jamie Lee. He's a PlaneTruth.info, and definitely he's done amazing work with all the Paradise Fires and truth in general.
No, absolutely, yeah. So it's great to have you, and I guess you could just tell people to start off who you are and a little bit about where they can find you, and then we'll get into some of your background information.
Sure. My name is Shelley Lewis, and you can find me on ThePlaneTruthMovie.com, as well as on Facebook, ShelleyLewis. And let's see, I've been a flat earther, probably delving into it since about 2014, 2015. I guess we could talk about the background. I'll wait on your cues.
Okay, great. Yeah, and no, you've definitely done some good work, and I guess we could start by talking about that. So everyone's seen the documentaries that are out there about flat earthers. Of course, I'm in one of them. One of those. Sorry about that. My dog's
That's okay.
upset at the UPS man being here. He doesn't appreciate UPS very much.
That's all right. It's good.
Yeah,
it's always a welcome. It's always a welcome sound. I love dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. She's great. So yeah, the Logan Paul mockumentary that everyone's heard or everyone's seen, everyone saw the Behind the Curve, and of course, misrepresented my experiment. So everyone's been looking for that flat Earth documentary, and that's what you want to do, right? Is that your plan?
Yeah, so that was actually the genesis of why we're doing this documentary. Just seeing really bad journalism really bothered me. And so initially, I put out a feeler on Facebook after I saw the documentaries, mostly Behind the Curve. I was so upset. I felt like it was always the outsiders looking in, trying to portray us, trying to tell us our story.
Right.
And so I put a feeler out there and just said, hey, does anybody want to collaborate on this? If we do our own grassroots movie production, would you guys support this? Would you be interested? And I just got inundated with so much support, and people were just really ready. And we had so much talent come from all different parts of the country. And so Mark Hollander, he wrote The Flat Truth. He has a radio station on Flat Earth Radio Live. And I said, hey, would you guys get behind this too? Would the radio station help support this? And he was on board, and Rick Lotek was on board. And I just felt like we really were missing that other component. I have some background in photography, photojournalism, as well as a little bit of cinematography. And I reached out to Jam Truth Productions, Joshua Michael, and said, hey, would you be willing to help us with this? And he was completely on board, 100%. And so he is my co-director, co-producer of the Plain Truth movie, and we cannot wait to just get our story told from our perspective, really with experiment science, without the bias. And it just really bothered me that they painted this picture that was so inaccurate of course, Logan Paul's and then Behind the Curve.
Right. No, excellent. And I'll show people real quick here. There are some links in the description if you'd like to help out, if you think this movie's a good idea, and to have it told, by flat earthers, about flat earthers, rather than coming from people who obviously have an ulterior motive and have a different agenda going on, which is what's happened on these other documentary films. And if you're actually interested in seeing what happens if a flat earth group got together and made a video, we can start here. This is the GoFundMe account, so you can go to gofundme.com/the-plane-truth, and there's already a few people who have donated. So thank you guys so much for starting this off. That's awesome. And I see quite a few shares on Facebook and Twitter. So that's awesome. And then there's also a Patreon, correct, at patreon.com/ThePlaneTruth. So you can tell people a little bit about those as I'm showing them on the screen.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting. We actually so far have raised, and we really haven't marketed it that much, but we've raised over $3,000. We had a Facebook not GoFundMe, but the Facebook fundraiser.
Right.
And we had a lot of weird things happening with that. People were saying, hey, when I try to donate, the page goes blank. Hey, I can't get to the page. And we just kept hearing that over and over again. And so we had to shut it down because people just could not donate. And we just kept the GoFundMe up. And the Patreon, we just launched that, I think, a week ago or a little bit over a week ago. And so it's starting to get some momentum. And we're going to start our marketing campaign a lot more seriously. We were in Denver. Interviewing, like you saw us on the live stream, with Chris Von Matry, Force the Level,
right,
with Bob Nodell and that whole group. And so it's just been a whirlwind. We're getting our shooting schedule together. Our plans are to go to Dallas, as well as take on the World Conference in Ohio this summer. And we have so many people that are subject matter experts, pilots, ballistic experts, scientists. Of course, we have a ton of pilots. I said that already, but we have, Chris Von Matry, who is a land surveyor, and
right,
just an incredible amount of, and that's just the beginning. We have so many other people that we're interviewing, military experts, that are not afraid anymore to say, look, I am putting myself out there, my career on the line because the earth is flat. And we just really want to get that story told.
right. And it's definitely something that YouTube isn't really happy with. They've just recently released a blog post saying that they're going to begin deleting flat Earth accounts. So this is something that may not even be around much. My channel may not be around much, and it's scary when they consider things that we're doing, as dangerous, because it's not dangerous. And we'll get into this whole conversation, but flat Earth really brings everything back home. And it really makes you realize what's important in life. And my whole life has changed because of flat Earth. As far as I'm healthier, I've lost 30 pounds by eating, vegetables that I'm growing myself and drinking distilled water. And we're going to get into all that because, and I guess you can tell people that you're also a vegan chef, right? And you're into holistic medicine. And go ahead and tell people about that while I show them your Facebook page here, which is Shelley Lewis, and you can find it on Facebook. There's a link in the description if you want to check her out there. But go ahead and tell people a little bit about the stuff that you're doing there on Facebook.
Yeah, so I guess my story goes back to when I was about 12 years old. I wanted to be an astronaut. I went to space camp.
Oh, no.
And yes, I know, it's so wild. I went to space camp. I met Alan B. Shepard, and that day absolutely changed my life. And I said, you know what? I want to go to the academy. I want to get into West Point. He had actually graduated from the Naval Academy, and I wasn't too keen on boats as a kid. I'd get seasick. So I thought, nah, that's not really the route I want to go. So I thought West Point would be an amazing route as well, since Buzz Lightyear, who I call affectionately Buzz Aldrin, right? He went there, and it was just a stepping stone to try to be an astronaut. And I knew kind of the ways of getting in. And so that became my goal. And so since the time I was 12 years old up until I was 18 years old, that's all I focused on. I was completely studying about space. I wanted to be a pilot. I had all these grand ideas of what I wanted to do, explore the moon, be one of the first women on the moon. I had all these ideas. And so I did all of the steps that you're supposed to do, you have to follow a recipe. And that's kind of interesting now that I'm a chef. You look at a recipe, you follow it exactly, and then it doesn't turn out. And so it's kind of funny how this actually progressed. So my senior year, well, I did get accepted, and I ran marathons, jumped out of airplanes, and I was on my way. And my senior year, I came down with this really mysterious illness to the point where I was out in the field one day, and I woke up literally. I could not really make a fist and hold a hairbrush. And I was completely exhausted. And I just kind of chalked it up to like, well, maybe I got bit by a tick because in New York, it's pretty prevalent out in that area. Maybe I have Lyme's disease or whatever. Like I never put two and two together of the timing of when I got sick, because just prior to that, I got deployed to Haiti. And when I got deployed to Haiti, it was during a summer tour, and I got a big series of vaccines at the time. They had lost all my shot records. So I originally enlisted for a year. They gave me a ton of vaccines, and I noticed a little bit of a reaction in terms of my muscles kind of cramping up, not really being able to maneuver that well with my joints, but it ended up, kind of resolving. And then 4 years later, when I was deployed to Haiti, they gave me all of my vaccines again. And I remember, in fact, the last series that I got, and they gave me some really bad stuff like yellow fever, typhoid. They gave me this shot called GG, which is like this gamma globulin, which goes into your in the small of your back. And I remember the last shot that I got, when I got about 12 that day, I passed out. And my commander, she said, you know what, why don't you just go back to the barracks and then we'll send you to Haiti tomorrow. Just take it easy today. And from that day on, I really wasn't the same. But I didn't kind of put the two and two together till I woke up, I would say probably a few weeks later, with not really being able to move my joints very well. So I went to sick call, and they're like, we're going to run a bunch of tests. And this went on for about 6 months. And they sent me to Walter Reed. And at Walter Reed is the medical facility for the Army in Washington. And they ran me through just a rigmarole of testing. And they tested me for Lyme's disease, leukemia, lupus, and all these other rheumatoid arthritis, all these things that came up. And so about, I would say, March of my senior year, they said, well, we have good news and we have bad news. The good news is you're going to graduate and you're going to, be a civilian. The bad news is you have lupus and you're going to be a civilian. And so I thought, I don't really know what to do with my life now. And I jumped from job to job and I ran from doctor to doctor. And all the while I kept getting worse and worse. And so about the year 2000, so I graduated in 1996. And this went on for about 3 years where I just kept getting worse and worse. And the doctors were just kind of like dumbfounded. They just kept giving me more and more drugs that were very, very toxic, which they've had to pull since from the market because of their major side effects. And I call them side effects, but they're really direct effects.
Right.
And so I kind of just ran out of my own answers. And what I just did is, I'm a spiritual person. I fell flat on my face. I knew I didn't have the answers. So I just cried out to my higher power and said, could you please just show me what to do? I don't know how to get better. And it's amazing. People started showing up in my life. They said, you need to go back to a plant-based whole foods diet. I grew up eating Hostess, Twinkies. My mom was a single mom, so we never really had any direction on how to eat right. She worked. Yeah, we were fast food generation. That was our generation.
Absolutely.
And so, I told my husband at the time, I'm like, and a friend of mine brought this book to me, said, Patient, Heal Thyself. And it was by Dr. Richard Anderson. And I just poured through this book. It was about a 400-page book at the time. And it went through from point A to point B, how to get better, why we get sick, and how to cleanse your body. And that completely changed my life. And so I read that book literally in a weekend. And I got up, I told my husband, look, we are going to try this. We're going to juice. We're going to go vegan. We're going to do some cleansing and go on a plant-based diet. And he and we grew up together. I actually knew him since I was 12. He's like, who are you? I don't know who you are. This is not the woman that I married. But he did it with me. And after 30 days, I noticed a lot of changes happening. I started going off my drugs that you could not go off of. Heavy duty, really serious, anti-inflammatory drugs I got off. I had major problems with my digestion. I was able to get off of those, Prilosec, Prevacid, Propulsid, all these crazy other drugs to help you. Because once you get sick and they give you a prescription,
right,
it starts a whole snowball effect of, oh, now you need this one, now you need this one. And I literally had a cupboard full of medications.
Right. And it's almost, some people think that the medication causes that one medicine will cause another downfall.
Absolutely. And that's the goal, right? Because they're in business to make money.
Absolutely.
To keep you sick. And so after 30 days, I started getting so much better. And it wasn't like this magic pill I had to buy on the internet. It was through foods, juicing, and taking simple herbs that anybody can go and get and harvest from their garden,
Right.
which really appealed to me. So it's available to everybody. I changed the water that I drank. I changed basically everything that I thought was true about how to get better using the doctor.
Right.
I basically fired my doctor.
Well, it's
Yeah,
like
and so,
I've heard you bring up before, and I've said this many times before, that, in Eastern countries, you pay the doctor when you're healthy and not when you're sick. And here we pay the doctor when we're sick.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
So we
crazy.
pay the doctor to keep us sick, and
Right.
yeah.
So I think that
And
that's
so,
totally important. And, one of the things that you brought up that I think is important to point out to people is everything that brought you back home. And that's kind of what I'm saying about Flat Earth. So when I hear Facebook or when I hear YouTube make these posts and they say, oh, Flat Earth is dangerous, I just get so angry because I'm like, what is dangerous about us talking about bringing everything home? The problem with us saying that is that it's dangerous to their pocketbooks. It's dangerous if we're telling people, hey, grow, you can go get a cucumber that you enjoy from a farmer's market, and there's enough seeds in that one cucumber that you can plant in your backyard and have cucumbers forever. That's dangerous to a lot of people.
right. And have you noticed, Jaron, they're starting to make fruits and vegetables sterile, meaning
Yeah.
they're seedless now,
Right.
and you can't actually go do that anymore.
Right. No, it's and that's science, how great science is, and science brought us Monsanto. Science is all these processed foods, and it's just so terrible because I grew up in the same generation as you that all we did was eat processed food. And it was, they make it seem like it's cheaper. They kind of tell you that it's cheaper, but if you ever watch commercials on TV, all they do is just throw sugar in your face. It's just sugar, 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 sugar. Recently I looked at, they don't even have to put the percent of the daily value that you should be taking. They don't even put that on the ingredients. They'll tell you the percentage of fat and things like that. But I remember growing up and thinking, oh, I'm eating this reduced fat Oreos, so it's better for me. And it's still processed food. And how do you think that they keep the taste there? They just load it with more sugar, and people just keep intaking this stuff, and it makes them unhealthy. It makes them sick.
Yeah, and it additionally makes them addicted, right? So
Absolutely.
if you have salt, oil, and sugar in that ingredient, it creates this amazing avalanche of dopamine in your brain to
Right.
the point where, it starts you on this addiction. It's called the pleasure trap. I forget who wrote the book, but the salt, oil, and sugar. And you're right, it's the sugar that keeps us addicted.
Yeah, it's the sugar, and then they place it in front of children. I mean, that's why. And then look at all these holidays. Christmas is all about your stocking and all this candy. I mean, I used to work as a store manager for a drugstore, and we would transition, 2 entire aisles to whatever the next candy holiday is. It's just from one to the next. You put out all this, Christmas candy, and then the next day, as soon as Christmas is over, you put out all the Valentine's Day candy. And then as soon as that's over, you put out all the Easter candy. And then it's just one after another, and it's just you get these children addicted at such a young age, and we wonder why we have so many obese children, and it's really scary. It's all this processed food. It's all this, and you know what? They're making money. That's what people need to understand. Nobody cares about your health. They care about you being able to simply buy more of this processed food.
That's right, and get addicted. And that's
Right.
such a good point about one holiday to the next, and they target the children.
Yeah.
Same with all the cereals, right? Oh, you got to
Right.
eat this breakfast cereal. It's straight sugar.
Absolutely. They tell you it's healthy, or they'll try and tell you it's better for kids, or kids love it. And the same thing is true with fast food. A lot of people don't realize how much sugar is in McDonald's French fries. It's ridiculous. It's because they have to put in something that keeps you addicted to it. It's not just potatoes. It's simply not what it is. And they put all these ingredients into this food, and then what do? They market it to the children. You've got playlands at McDonald's. Come play and come see all these great things we have, and look at Ronald McDonald, and look at all these cartoon characters, and look at these children's meals. And it's disgusting, and it really has, at least in the United States, caused an epidemic of people who are just unhealthy and addicted to being unhealthy. That's scary.
Right, the Happy Meal.
Right.
They target the Happy Meal.
Yeah, real happy. You won't be very happy for long, and it's sad that I had to grow up that way, and it took me until I was basically 35 to change all my habits. But the second I did, just the same as what you said, you were able to start to heal yourself, and I was getting fat, and I didn't feel like I was eating real bad. I maybe had fast food every once in a while, but I felt like I was eating things that were good, at least according to what I was reading on the package, reduced fat, things like that. But I was just getting bigger and getting bigger and getting sicker, and not clear-minded. And that's why I think Flat Earth is so important. And for anyone to say it's dangerous, I think is a ridiculous statement to make. because all we're talking about is bringing everything home. And now I'm growing things in my own garden, and now I'm drinking distilled water. And I told you earlier that I have a lemon water every morning, and things like that have completely healed all my ailments. I don't take any medications. I don't take anything prescription, and I don't think I'll need to, because when you eat healthy like that, when you bring it back home and you realize the importance of keeping things in your family and keeping things growing yourself, and tomatoes, and it's just great. I mean, for dinner every night we have some sort of a cucumber tomato salad, and I don't mean with dressing and things. I just mean cucumbers and tomatoes. It's just simple, and I feel so much better, and I have Flat Earth to thank for it, because Flat Earth is something that makes you realize what's important. And so for anyone to say it's dangerous is hilarious to me. It's funny. I don't know how to say it any different. It's just scary to me that they would call that dangerous. Well, it's dangerous to their pocketbooks.
That's the bottom line. And I want to piggyback on what you said about the garden and healing yourself through natural remedies. One of the things that I found is that simple remedies, just even eating cilantro, helps to detoxify the blood of heavy metals. And that's the other thing they're doing. Like with water, they're putting fluoride in the water. Right. They're putting iodine in our salt, right? But even before that, they're putting chlorine in the water. And if you look at the halogens, the things that displace iodine, which we need, every single cell in your body needs iodine, it is always trumped by fluoride, chloride, and bromide. Right. And those are the things they add to our foods that make us iodine deficient. Right. And something as simple as, we'll just fix it by adding iodine to the salt. And I want to go back to that. Salt actually has an ingredient, unless you buy natural salt, called dextrose, which is sugar. Right. Why in the right?
Thousands of words that they use for sugar. Be careful when you're looking at the ingredients. Dextrose, cellulose. I mean, it's all this stuff.
Absolutely. And that actually creates an addiction. And that particular dextrose ingredient is MSG. Right. And so you're eating and eating and eating more and more and more. You have to become addicted to their food so that you can keep being a good consumer.
Right. You got to keep buying that stuff.
But what's so beautiful, just eating in the garden, like you said, you don't even need a dressing if it's grown perfectly. Nope. It's perfect.
It's great. And MSG, I know, gives a lot of people headaches. My dad was one of those who had migraines for years and years and years, and they had to do tests and tests and tests, and then they finally realized that by removing MSG from his diet, he got rid of his headaches. So, but it took him years and years, and who knows how much damage that did. And it definitely, for his comfortability, for his enjoying life, it definitely took a detriment. But now he's removed that, it's so much better. But yeah, I love what you're saying about salt. If you use table salt, there's so much negativity in that. You have to use a Himalayan pink salt. It's a great salt to use, and there's others out there. But and it's just so simple, just to take a step back, look at what you're intaking, change, like you said, change the water you drink. Do not drink the fluoride that they're putting in there, all the toxic metals that are in your water. There's so much that you can do at home, and you'll save money. I mean, they love to put this stuff on TV. Have you seen the documentary Fed Up?
I have not. That's on my list.
Yeah, really good.
I've watched What the Health, which was another good one too.
That's a good one. Yep. So there's some good ones out there, and you need to watch them, and they'll just change just when you watch that and you see some of the things that the United States government has done. How they get in trouble the second they try and change something. How the groups that are out there, and they go out and they try and change the policy, and it's all for the betterment of these companies that are making money off you, like Coca-Cola. Man, if you still drink soda, man, you got to really look into what you're doing. There's no wonder you would have health problems if you're drinking sodas.
Right, the high fructose corn syrup, which is typically GMO, and we can go into that whole thing too. People are like, it's these natural fruit. Fruit is bad for you because it's high in sugar. It's like, goodness. No, it's not. It's natural sugar. What's bad for you is the high fructose corn syrup. Absolutely. Which is usually GMO.
Yeah, all the fruits that have all the sugar also have the amount of fiber that you need to process it. So,
that's right.
Right. So if you're just eating sugar with it doesn't have the fiber in those items, and therefore the sugar just becomes the fat, and it has to store it somewhere, and it stores it in your belly, and then you become obese.
Right, exactly. And the liver, too. I've noticed a lot of these high fructose corn syrup goes straight to the liver. And women have a really hard time, like through menopause and as they make changes in their life, going from being able to have babies going into their later stages in life, I notice a lot of women have this gain. And it's usually because their liver is so toxic, and it's from all the chemicals. Your liver's a chemical factory, right? And so it has to process all the pesticides, GMOs, herbicides, all of the chemicals that we put in our body, the liver has to deal with. And until you cleanse your liver, you're not going to have success with being able to maintain a healthy weight. And so the fact that you said that totally piggybacks. Eating a healthy diet,
Right.
You're getting rid of those chemicals and you're detoxifying your liver.
What are some other ways to detoxify the liver?
Wow. So I love dandelion. It's a really powerful, you can actually just go buy it and put it in your salads. You can
Okay.
buy it at the health food store. You can buy the herbal tincture. You could buy the pills, or you can just eat it.
Mm-hmm.
It grows in your yard, which we've been told is a weed. It's so bad for you. You have to kill it. No, just go pick it. As long as you're not spraying your yard, you can actually throw that into your salad.
Right.
Milk thistle is another great one for your liver. Like you said, one of the best things you can do for your liver, which you didn't say specifically, is giving up that sugar,
Right.
that high fructose sugar. Getting rid of the genetically modified foods in your diet, which is hidden everywhere. Genetically
It's
modified
everywhere.
soy, corn,
Yeah.
right?
It's all over, and you don't even realize it until you watch some of these documentaries or you come to this realization, and then you go to the store and you look and you're like, wow, it's everywhere. It's all that we're presented with, unless you just bring it back home. One of the things that they did in that Fed Up documentary was showed the test, and I'm sure you've heard of this experiment they did, where they gave mice sugar and they gave some mice cocaine. And when they took it away from them, all the mice went to the sugar. You know, that they
Wow.
they were more addicted to the sugar than they were to the cocaine. Basically, was the end result of those tests, which is just crazy to think about. That sugar can be even more addicting than one of those most addicting drugs that there is.
Absolutely, because it causes dopamine to just skyrocket in the
Right.
brain. And the brain, which is not a normal thing, dopamine should be normal. Like it's that part of a music that you really love, that feeling when you hug your child.
Right.
Just when you see a puppy, playing, you get that feeling of joy. That is actually dopamine. That's a natural reaction. But what they do is they manipulate it through foods and chemicals, salt, oil, sugar, processed salt, processed oil, processed sugar, and it causes the brain to reach very, very high levels of dopamine. And that is the addiction cycle.
Right.
And when it goes up, right, that high level of dopamine, as soon as your brain feels that, it will never forget it, and it always wants it.
Right.
And just like
And if you can get that by sitting on the couch and eating M&Ms, there's a big problem, because you're going to be addicted to sitting on the couch and eating M&Ms, and you're going to end up like one of these people on My 600-Pound Life. But even if you don't end up like that, even if you're 30 pounds, this is just something I can speak to, because I still think I'm overweight, but I was 30 pounds heavier just less than a year ago, and the energy difference is amazing. And now I spend every day, I alternate between bike riding for 6 miles or walking for 3 miles. It's not a lot, but you know what? That brings the dopamine to me. That gives me energy. You get outdoors, you get out in the sun. There's so many benefits to just doing something active like that.
Absolutely. And like you said, if you're sitting on the couch watching television, which is total hypnosis, you're
Right.
eating M&Ms or fast food, because honestly, the television is telling you to do that. You're
Right.
watching commercials that are programming you.
Yeah.
So I love what you said, that we can make changes. We can just do simple things like deciding to say, no, I'm not going to eat that. And you will go through what I like to call a healing crisis, because your body's been drugged up,
Right.
literally with food.
Yeah. It's
And
just like a
the
rehab.
drug-
You have to go through a little bit of a rehab period.
You have to go through that and just be willing to go through the detoxification feeling. It's like giving up coffee. You're going to get headaches because that caffeine is a drug
Right.
that stimulates you. And one of the things, too, that a lot of people overlook is their adrenals. We are so stressed out, completely amped up through different chemicals, caffeine, sugar, that our adrenals really take a hit. And those sit right on top of your kidneys. And they actually turn on the kidneys through the lymphatic system. So getting your adrenals healed is so important as well. So not only your liver, you want to heal your adrenals. And what you can do is use some adaptogen herbs such as ashwagandha, very powerful for healing the adrenals. And let's face it, we all need to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm writing a lot of this stuff down for myself, because, and it's always, you have to take baby steps. And this is hard for people you can't just, and maybe some people can just make all those changes at once. But I know for me it was baby steps. It was starting out by saying, okay, I want to change the water that I drink. And, David Weiss, I'm not sure if you know David Weiss, but he sent me a water distiller and said, you need to drink only this water, do it this way and these methods. And I said, okay, I can do that. I can change the water. And it started with the water. And then it started with more healthy foods. And then it started with going to the farmer's market. Then it started with growing those things. And it comes in time. And yeah, it's been a year, but you take baby steps. And so I think some people might get overwhelmed and they hear some of the things you're saying or some of the things I'm saying and they say, that's too much. I don't know if I can make all those changes. Just start with one thing. Eliminate something bad. If it's sodas, sodas was for me at this point 2 years ago, at least 2 years since I've had a soft drink. And it's an easy change and you'll see the benefits from it. And then all of a sudden you'll start to say, okay, what else can I do? And then you change that. What else can I do? And it may be a month here and a month there. And like you said, you have to go through some withdrawals. David Weiss and I always talk about it, that nothing really sounds better sometimes than a cold Pepsi. It just really sounds good. But I know how bad it is for me. And you just remove that from your even thought process. And now I don't even think about it anymore. And now, in fact, sometimes I think about it, I'm just, man, that's disgusting. Because I know what's in it. And I know what it would do to me.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. Start with one thing. You can change your water, get the distilled water, like you said, and maybe squeeze a lemon in it.
Right.
And that's going to alkalize your body really quickly, instantly. You can do that first thing in the morning, and it costs 50 cents.
Right.
Of course, they're raising the prices of lemons, but you can just find a farmer who has lemon trees. And what I'll even do is just take a bunch of lemon juice, squeeze it all, put in ice cube trays, and then when you want to put some lemon, you froze it. And sometimes freezing is actually better than the real, fresh food because it's picked at the peak of ripeness. You're getting that freshness right then and there as it's frozen. It maintains a lot of its integrity in terms of nutrition. So just do a lemon ice cube and throw that into your water, and you're doing it ahead of time.
I do have a question for you. So do you think it's better to not cook things? And what I'm talking about is, let's say you have an option of having, mushrooms and broccoli. Do you think it takes anything away from it if you cook that, or is it better to eat it raw?
It's a really good question. I will say yes to some things, no to other things. Mm-hmm. For example, tomatoes have a higher concentration of lycopene as they're cooked. And so you're going to get more lycopene as you cook that tomato and make it into, of course, fresh tomato sauce from scratch. Or, just do the best you can in jars where it's been picked at the peak of ripeness. No, nothing has been added, and I don't use stuff in cans if I can help it.
No, me neither.
But other things such that requires a lot of vitamin C. You don't want to buy that fake lemon juice that comes in a plastic container that looks like a lemon.
No,
that's absolutely garbage.
Right.
It's usually preserved with sodium benzoate, which is not something we want to do. So I am trained as a raw food chef. I'm also a vegan chef, so I have both. And for another example would be carrots. Carrots have a higher concentration of vitamin A after they're cooked.
Oh, good.
So
I like cooked carrots better than I like raw carrots. So that's
good. So I say the most important thing, like you said, is just get your fiber. Try to eat your whole foods whole.
Right.
And it's a journey for all of us. I won't say that I've arrived. I'm constantly having to refine because we live in a toxic, concentrated, chemtrail laden water that's being forced on our throats. Even when you go out to eat, they're using bad foods, bad water, cheap foods to feed you. And I want to go back real quick to the water incident. I just flew. I actually went to NASA this weekend. I wanted to get some B-roll footage for the film.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Visit my dad. And what they do at the airport, I always get the pat down no matter what. I don't go through that millimeter wave technology, but they make you get rid of your water, right? So now you go through the airport, you're going to get dehydrated because who's going to pay $12 for a bottle of water?
Right.
Not many people. You get on the airline, and guess what kind of water they have for you? Dansani, which is absolute garbage. Right. It has sulfates in it, all these different preservatives in water, and that's your only choice.
Right.
You have no other choice unless you go and spend $12 at the airport to buy water. So most people, when they're traveling, they're dehydrated. Once you get to a point of dehydration, you really need to focus on rehydrating. And that's just one of the, long games that they have. Let's take away water from airports because it's absolutely dangerous. Why?
Yeah, it makes
Why
traveling,
is water dangerous?
Right, it makes traveling certainly more interesting because I know the last few places I've traveled, luckily I've driven. And even when I drove to and thank you, by the way, for coming out to the Denver meetup or the Denver conference. That was awesome to see you there. I know you interviewed me for FER live. But that was awesome. But, I brought a
Yeah.
bunch of water, and David Weiss, who was flying there, made me bring him a gallon of water. He said, cook me a gallon of water so I have at least a gallon while I'm there. And I had to have, bring that distilled water with him. So I love to travel because I can just pack up a bunch of glass bottles, put them in a cooler, keep them cold. But you're right. When you go out to eat, if you do that, I tend to not go out and eat. But if I ever did, I would have my own water with me. And when you fly, that's a problem because they're not going to let you take it.
Isn't that crazy?
It is
I know,
crazy.
you're right on.
Yeah, it's totally
So
crazy.
a way around that is I just bring fruit. I'll bring like lemons or oranges that I could just squeeze myself.
Right.
And I just squeeze my own stuff. And you can buy those little portable squeezers and just make sure that you hydrate while you're traveling. But yeah, it's a rabbit hole, and we have so much to learn. But like you said, keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it
Do
simple.
one change.
And I think supporting your local, farmers, and that takes time. You have to kind of look around, find a farmer's market that's close to you, go around, find somebody that you like, talk to them about how they grow their food. And I found a great one. We have it's a little tiny shack on the, end of a street over here, but I get to see where they actually have their little shack in front of their field. And I ask them what they put in there, and I love the food that they grow, and just kind of talking to them, and I have really picked up. And then what I did is took those cucumbers, and they've got some lemon cucumbers, and all these things, and I just use those to plant my own garden, which is great. That's what you want to do.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
And for
great.
people who can't plant, they can just grow even basil or cilantro on their counter and just have something that you don't have to worry about, right?
Yeah, certainly. But I still think that in just a small area, if you can't plant, unless you live in an apartment or something, but if you have a backyard, you could just build a little raised bed or even a potted plant where you can put tomatoes and have them climb up a, bamboo trellis or something, and you'll get a lot out that. And I think it's really important that people do that if they want to try and start eating more healthy. And it really does save you money. Like you mentioned, if you go to the grocery store, you go to Safeway, or you go to Albertsons or something to buy your lemons, that's probably not the best way to do it. Because those are going to be expensive. But find somebody that's got a lemon tree. I see them all over where they're just falling off. People can't even pick them in time. There's so many lemons on there. And then I planted a lemon tree. It's probably about 6 months ago, and we've got a bunch of green lemons, so they're coming. They're not quite ready yet.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
can't
it.
wait
You
for
could
those to
just
come
get
up.
them in little pots. Put them
Right.
on your patio.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And especially because you only need, I use about a lemon a day in my water. But your idea about the ice tray is something I never thought of either. That's a great idea. And just pop an ice cube into your water and get the lemon water that way.
Absolutely, because each ice cube technically is about 2 tablespoons. So each lemon you get between 2 to 4 tablespoons. So put a couple ice cubes in there and you have it.
Perfect, yeah. And you can buy really cheap juicers and things that make it really easy, even electric ones that you can buy on Amazon for $10, $15 that make it really easy to juice fruits. And, I do a smoothie every day, which is usually raspberries and oranges and just things like that. But it really will change everything. And you're getting your sugars the right way, and you're getting them with the fiber that you need to process it. And all of a sudden, you'll feel clearer-minded, clearer-headed. You won't feel as lazy, because that's another thing is I got extremely lazy, and I just put it up to, I'm getting towards 40. That's why I'm lazy. That's why I like to sit on the couch. But no, it had everything to do with all the food that I was intaking.
That's right. They want you to feel lazy and just turn on the TV so they can program you, right?
Oh, the old television.
Yeah. Right. And they keep us so busy with work and having to travel. Most people have to commute an hour a day.
Right.
That by the time you get home, you're just totally spent. And who wants to cook and who wants to do all that? But just making something as simple as changing your water, eating fresh fruit, making a smoothie a day. I make it a goal to have a salad as big as my head. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
And just having more fruits. I think of like, what can you add, knowing what you can take away. So.
Right. No, it's brilliant. And, do you ever watch any of the stuff that David Avocado Wolf does?
I love David Avocado Wolf.
He's
In
the
fact,
best.
I met him.
Me too. Yeah, he's come over my house a few times, and
Really?
he's the
That's
one.
incredible.
Yeah, he's the one who brought me the NutriBullet, which is what I use
Right.
to make my shakes. It's an awesome machine. I don't know. They say it's gravity that causes it, but it's you turn it upside down, and I wouldn't agree with that necessarily. But no, it's great. And if you guys have never tried a NutriBullet, they're not very expensive and so easy to make a shake a day. And yeah, he's an awesome guy. I love him so much.
He is awesome. In fact, I think he's a flat earther.
He is. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
He's a flat earther.
Yep. Yeah. That's why he's come over a few times. And, I just got invited right now via text, and I'm like really upset. I think somebody invited me to go and talk with Michael Tellinger tomorrow, which I was I have something planned for tomorrow. I'm like, oh man, it's in LA, which would be a far drive for me. But just seeing that, Michael Tellinger's another one that's really interested in a lot of the work that flat earthers are doing. Some of these guys that, and the crazy thing about Michael Tellinger is his logo is a globe. And I'm always impressed when people like that are willing to look into it. That's a big step for him. But he's done a lot of great work on ancient history and really, uncovering some of the occult knowledge that has been hidden in this realm for far too long.
Definitely. And I want to go back to where you're talking
Sure.
about flat earthers are dangerous. One of the things when you said that piqued my interest was the CIA document, I think it's 1035, when it was about the Warren Report,
Right.
where they coined the term conspiracy theorists.
Absolutely.
And they made it a weapon.
Right.
And a lot of the things, that same meme or narrative that they're trying to push is say, well, these people are dangerous. These people have an agenda to like make money, or how many people would have to be in on it.
Right.
This all goes back to JFK and the
Right.
shooting of JFK. And so they're doing that same exact psyop with flat earthers and even people who are vegan. Oh, they're dangerous, And my thing is like, you don't necessarily have to be a vegan to be completely healthy, but I'll say it completely changed my life. Just even giving up the processed foods changed my life. But saying that we're dangerous, I remember people saying, oh, your kids aren't going to be very healthy if you don't raise them with meat and dairy. And I took them off the standard American diet from the day they were born. And my daughter's taller than me, and I'm 5'7", which isn't that tall, but she's 15, and she's completely healthy. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And you definitely agree then that people should remove all processed food, right? Or at least as close as they can get.
I mean, I would say that's the goal line.
Right.
Try to do that as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Eliminate it as much as possible. And like I said, to think that way from the start is going to be very difficult. But you take baby steps, eliminate that, add more salads, add more fruit, add more vegetables. Before you know it, that encompasses your entire daily meals.
And honestly, real food doesn't have labels.
Right.
So you don't have to read labels if you're eating real food. But if you do have to read labels, make sure you read them, because there's so much stuff in there that's hidden. And even like you said, they don't even have to put that in there.
Right. No, they don't have to put the percentage of daily value, because if they did, you would realize that your body can't even, your body shouldn't even have a Kit Kat a day. You know what I'm saying? And that's all that the sugar that your body could ever possibly handle that day. And it doesn't come with any of the fiber that it would need to work that out. And that's just going to become fat. And it's crazy to me that everywhere you go into these grocery stores or anything, what do they put all next to the check stands? Is all that junk. Why? Because everyone's addicted to it. And so it's very hard to walk through that check stand and not see something that everybody likes. A Snickers, a Kit Kat, a Mounds, a something, a bag of chips that's just terrible for you. A bag of Doritos. It's a small bag. A lot of people think, this isn't bad. It's going to make you feel sick. It's going to make you fat. Period.
Absolutely. And you crave it. You crave it because
Right.
you never forget what that taste is. And that's the whole food addiction. Things that are grown in a plant as opposed to plant-based foods that are grown in your garden.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I think people can make that change. It's not a difficult change. And it really does save you money. I mean, one of the things that they talk about in that Fed Up documentary is they make it seem like fast food is cheap, the dollar menu and things like that. But I mean, to go feed a family of 4 at McDonald's will cost you $25-$30. And if you don't think you can feed a family of 4 at home with cucumbers and tomatoes and maybe some sourdough bread or something, I mean, it's just crazy. You could easily do it for far, far cheaper. But they teach you about value menu, and it's fast food, and it's quick, and it's easy for you to get to. And it's, your children love it, and they love Happy Meals, and you can also take them there and they can play in the playground. Well, guess what? If you eat McDonald's every day, it doesn't matter how much you exercise, you're going to gain weight. Period.
Yeah, they did a documentary on that too, where the guy went and it was called, I forget what it was called, but he went on the McDonald's diet. Yeah, Super Size Me.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Great documentary. People should check that one out too. But I totally agree with you with the fact that they're saying flat earthers are dangerous. There's so many of us doing good work in this department, and to hear that, it's more evidence to me that they're absolutely afraid of this topic, because it's not dangerous. And I wanted to point out to people real quick, just so they know, Thursday, June 13th, that's coming up next Thursday, a little less than a week from today. I have Jason Lindgren and Crow 777 coming here live. This will be on this exact show, on this exact YouTube channel. That'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific, so almost the same time we went live today. But I just want to point that out to people. We're going to be talking about a lot of this same kind of stuff. They've been definitely censored in what they're talking about. And then what we're going to do is have them join us on Monday night on Raw for a more uncut kind of conversation where we'll be talking about vaccines and things like that we're not allowed to talk about here. Not allowed to say too much of that on YouTube. They really have a line they want you to toe. It gets kind of scary, but again, check out those 2 shows. So Jason Lingren and Crow 777 will be here Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And have you looked into any of Crow's work? Have you seen what he's done?
I have. He's done some amazing work with the moon.
Awesome.
That's some incredible stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody to check that out. That'll be, again, next Thursday and then the following Monday. So not this coming Monday on Raw, but the following Monday. So, and that'll be an uncut, that's why I do my Raw show on TFR so that it's completely uncensored, unfiltered. I don't have to watch what I say like I do here. Can't say some of those trigger words that will get you kicked off YouTube. And it's just scary. It's not dangerous. It's just people talking about whatever they want. And I don't care if you don't like the stuff I talk about. That's the funny thing is that people are free to go wherever they want to go and watch whatever they want. I don't care if you want to make a YouTube channel where you just tell everybody how important CNN is and how truthful they are. That's great. If you want to do that, go ahead. You're not going to catch me on your channel making comments and yelling and screaming at you. Everybody has their right to free speech. And so I say if you want to do that with your life, go ahead. And you should feel the same thing for me. If I want to do this with my life, if I want to have Shelley on, if we want to talk about some of the things that we've done in our life that's changed our lives, you have the choice to either say, I might try some of those things, or no, I think these people are crazy. I want to go back to eating Doritos. I want to eat my Oreos. I want my processed foods. I want to go out and eat at these restaurants that you're going to end up having 4,000 calories in one meal and not even realize it. That's up to you,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess getting back to, because I kind of interrupted you during your story. So you graduated from West Point, correct?
I did.
Right. And what did you have your degree in?
So I studied, everybody graduates with a Bachelor of Science in Engineering.
Okay.
And then I studied pre-law, so American Legal Studies. I wanted to be a pilot. My eyes were not good enough to make the pilot, obviously, but around that same time I was receiving my medical discharge.
Right.
And so I basically came into the world not knowing what the heck I was going to do. And I literally jumped from job to job. And my husband at the time, he and I moved all the time. In the 12 years that we were married, we moved 13 times. I would go to one job, hate it, learn everything I could, move on, do the next thing. And finally, after I got better and feeling like I wanted to help people, I became a holistic health practitioner and decided that's what I wanted to do. So I became a vegan chef. I've written a couple cookbooks on it. And it's funny. So the story with my husband is I met him when I was 12 and he was my best buddy. We ended up meeting after I got out of the Army. He went through this whole journey with me and I've gone through so much. That was my wake up call. Getting sick was my wake up call to truth. Right. Because if the doctors couldn't help me, I had to go outside the box. And that woke me up like, wow, okay, so everything I've been taught is in terms of health is a lie. It's the opposite. Right. You shouldn't run to your doctor. You should be your own doctor. And food is your medicine. They always say food doesn't matter, but it really does. And then 9/11 hit. And of course, I was military. So I still believed in weapons of mass destruction until weapons of mass destruction were never found. And when I really analyzed the whole World Trade Center and how the Patriot Act came as a result to take away more of our freedoms, which they called the Patriot Act, it actually stole our sovereignty.
Right.
And so that was a wake-up call. And then in 2010, my husband was watching a documentary about the moon. And I came home from work one day and he's like, you know what? I don't think the moon landings are real. And I flipped out. I said, why would that even be on your watch list?
Right, you're crazy.
Of course it's real. And I went through the whole cognitive dissonance, but he planted that seed to where I just filed it in the back of my head. And then shortly after, he was tragically killed. He was riding his bicycle and hit by a car, and my whole world changed. Everything from that moment on was like, whoa. It hit me out of the blue. It really put me into pretty much a spiral of just depression, and I became a single mom and immediately just having to go through so much. I have so much respect for women who, or men who have to raise their children in this world by themselves. It's not easy.
Right.
And
I was a single dad for my son's first 12 years of his life. I was a single dad, so I know how hard that is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And so what that did, though, is he planted that seed in me. So then around at the end of 2014, 2015, this flat earth thing came about because I was studying a lot of Rob Skiba's work, and I loved his work on the giants and things like that. And he started talking about flat earth. And I was pissed. I'm like, how could you even do this? You're ruining everything we've worked for in the truth movement. You are ruining it.
Right, how dare you?
Yeah, so I went out to try to disprove him because of my background. Oh, I wanted to be an astronaut, and I know physics, and I know these science, and I know gravity, and blah, 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 just completely being a parrot to everything I was taught. And then as I really looked into it, it took me a while. But that little voice inside of my head was, go study the moon landings, go study the moon landings. Just kind of my husband putting that seed in my head. And that was really it for me. And even then, after I studied the moon landings, I'm like, well, maybe the moon landings aren't real. But then, But the Earth is still a globe, right? I mean, so I could accept the fact they faked that, but still not the globe. And then it hit me.
It's like a trickle-down effect. It's the same thing where we say you got to start small with what you're changing in your life. It's the same kind of thing. That's why a lot of people say, well, how do I approach my dad who believes that we went to the moon and I'm like, well, that's a tough conversation. You're really going to have to start small. So like you found one thing, led to another, because at each step you have those stages of grief. Those that you have that battle with yourself at each step. And I still have that battle all the time with different things that I find where you fight against it at first. I've just learned now that if my first reaction is to put up my fists, like there's no way that's true, then take the time to explore it, take the time to look into it. And that's why I tell people all the time with my show to do their own research, because you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Because that's absolutely the truth for me, is that whatever I was taught in the past, that's my first defense mechanism. So I put my fists up. There's no way, that can't be true. But then I take the time, I take the step back, and I say, okay, let's start digesting this. Let's find some documentaries on it. Let's look into it ourselves. And before you know it, you realize that everything we're taught is for profit reasons. It's never for your sanity. It's never for your well-being. It's never for your family's well-being. It's always for those at the top.
And that's a really good point. When you see something and immediately your reaction is to like, stop, I don't believe it. That's probably a little sign that you should look into it.
Right. And
or at least give it a chance.
That goes out there for all those people who still think there's a downward force. It's called gravity. They put up their fists and they want to fight, but it's because they've been indoctrinated with it. And I understand that. And that's why I've let them go on their own merry way. They can say whatever they want about it. It's simply the fact that they haven't taken the time to step back and realize that just because science told us that F equals ma doesn't mean it's true. That's a formula. It doesn't mean it's reality. You can have acceleration definitely without a force. You just need to think about it. So I'll leave that at that. But I think that people are so inundated, so indoctrinated with different beliefs that they have a hard time breaking through. And really, when you look at it, almost everything has been weaponized against the people. And I mean, even from government agencies, which, again, I heard you mention on a recent show that, government is, what does that mean, Shelley?
Yeah, mind control.
Mind control, right? It's controlling the mind. It's the actual etymology of the word. And people fail to realize that. But really, then you start to realize that all these agencies are an assault or a tool against the people. It's the IRS, the FDA, FTC, EPA, DEA, USDA. All these things are not for you; they're against you. And so when you start to realize vaccines, climate change, GMOs, fluoride, we could go into chemical agriculture, Monsanto, carbon dioxide, flu shots. It just keeps rolling in, and then you start to realize that everything is rigged. And before you know it, it gets down to the origin of the universe. The official narrative is a laughable fairy tale of where they think the universe came from. It's just great. Life on other planets. Come on. I mean, it's just ridiculous that people believe all this stuff. But really, when you get into 9/11, college admissions, we just found out the college admissions scam. And if you think it ends there, you're sorely confused. It's so much worse than that. It's all about money and getting people into school so that they can get good jobs. None of it is about educating the mind. It's all about trapping your mind into believing exactly what they want you to believe, into being a yes man, into doing everything your teacher wants you to do. If you have a free thinking mind, you don't get promoted in school. You get sent to the principal's office.
That's a really good point.
So it's everything. We talked about food and food labeling. Public education is ridiculous. The Common Core direction is really anti-knowledge, is what it is. They're just changing it away from, you just have to come close. You don't have to get it right. Then we can get into banking and finance and everything that's gone on with this debt-controlled system. I mean, it just goes on and on. I could go on forever. And then we get into medicine and pharmaceuticals, and you are an example of that you were going to doctor after doctor, I'm sure paying top dollar, or at least insurance companies were paying top dollar. And that's another thing people don't understand. We could get into the insurance companies and how they pay for a lot of people's illnesses. So even it doesn't hit our pocketbook, but ultimately, why wouldn't these drug companies keep putting out more and more expensive drugs? I just saw recently there's some new drug for this very rare disease. The price of the drug is $8 million to keep people alive. It's just ridiculous. It's all about the money. And they say, oh, well, that's the supply and the demand, and life is so priceless. Yeah, but you've made a medicine that fixes people. Why are you charging $8 million for it? Doesn't cost that much. But big science is totally rigged. Academia, like we talked about, what's safe with the EPAs. I mean, they say that putting that fluoride in your water is safe. It's ridiculous. It's not safe for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what other things you want to talk about in that regard? I could go on and on about all the things that...
No, I could too. So much of that. I wanted to touch back on gravity.
Sure.
One of the things as scientists at using the scientific method is that you have to isolate your variable.
Right.
And so when they say gravity's a given. Well, show me where you isolated gravity to test gravity.
Right. No, they just put little g in all their formulas. Exactly.
Right. They just throw g in there. And then we see g, with the whole Freemasonic symbolism that they throw in our face, where they're telling us, look, it's kind of part of our whole agenda.
Right. It's
and
right there
I love how you
the,
connected the dots.
It's right there between the square and compass. The big letter G is right there for you. But again, here's the difference between me and a lot of other people. I don't go calling people names. I let people believe whatever they want. I really don't mind. If they want to believe that there's a downward force, go ahead. It's not going to change my opinion. I have my beliefs, and until I have enough evidence to change that, I stick to what I can get. And that's really what I mean by Flat Earth has brought everything home for me. I used to be a drugstore manager. I used to work, 12-hour days. I used to work 70-hour weeks. I used to have 90-plus employees, run a complete and total pharmacy. That scares me now, what I did. Scares me what those pharmacies were doing. And you'd see the same people coming in picking up their drugs the same time every week. And you know what? They never looked any better. They looked worse. These people that I got to know after working in stores for 6-7 years, I would watch these old people, and I don't mean old, they could be 50 or 60, just deteriorate in front of my eyes, yet they were coming in and picking up these pharmaceuticals every single month. And then you realize, well, man, what if, and then they would get more and more. And you know what? That's the point of running a business. I mean, I would get judged on what my numbers were versus prior year. Wouldn't it be better if CVS really cared about your health? Wouldn't it be better if you had less and less people showing up to your pharmacy? Wouldn't that means that you're healing people? But that's not what I'm judged on. I'm judged on whether my numbers are increasing versus prior year. Are we selling more scripts? Are we doing more processed prescriptions? That's how you get judged. That's how I got promoted. And that's why I quit that job.
The bottom dollar.
Yep,
absolutely. Follow the money.
Absolutely, follow the money. And yeah, so when I talk about every agency, when you find out about the DNC, the RNC, all problems, when you find out who runs Facebook and Twitter, Google search engines, like I mentioned, college admissions, the political elections. I mean, I could literally go on and on. How about the oil and energy industries? How about these infectious diseases? How about Hollywood, completely run by globalists? How about the music industry? How about the sports industries? I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people are still stuck on sports and following their favorite team and what are they doing and what are the Broncos doing this week and who's playing the Super Bowl and what are we going to eat for Super Bowl and what. It's just crazy how much they've brainwashed an entire generation or generations.
Yeah, one distraction after another. And you did a really good job of connecting all those dots and how everything is really connected to us having the choice to wake up or not.
Right.
Because if you follow any one of those rabbit holes, it is absolutely going to take you to places you would not even be willing to go. And I love what you said about Flat Earth. Flat Earth is the foundation. It brings everything back to us where we live. And somebody said, if you don't have a map of where you are, you're lost. Mm-hmm. And so we had this idea that we're spinning on a ball. We're completely lost if we actually go and believe that, because we're spinning, traveling, going nowhere. Where's this Earth going if it's a spinning ball traveling at 1,000, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, traveling in these spiral directions with everything kind of, going wonky on us. Right. But yet the star formations stay the same.
You know what that's breeded is? It's breeded a high level of atheism.
Mm.
Yep. I mean, I was an atheist myself, and ultimately Flat Earth kind of brought that home. Really, I guess I became a believer that there was a creator before really Flat Earth, but all around that same time. But, they talk about how great science is, and look at all these things science has done. Science has told people that they're floating on a speck of dust in an endless vacuum. That's what science has done. And it makes it very easy for people just to go and think they can get away with whatever they want. There's no
morality.
Right, there's no morality. You're not going to be judged here on this earth, and everything you do here, you'll just be worm food. And I think that those are major problems, and people have a hard time realizing everything that's really going on. Just recently, Trump made an admission about the military-industrial complex, and that there's people out there who want war to continue. And when he said, I'm going to pull all these troops home, all these political groups got really upset at him and everything and said, no, we need these troops there. And he said if they had it their way, I would send more troops because war makes money. And again, it's the same thing I talked about being in the pharmacy industry, and we need to sell more scripts. If you sell tanks, you need to sell more tanks. If you sell guns, you need to sell more guns. So what do you think they want, war or peace? And it's all about the money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same with being sick. It's a business for people to be sick, and they don't want to just they don't want to just cure you. They can't cure you. They can't cure a damn thing. Every doctor who's had 8 years of medical training, which is almost all pharmaceutical, by the way,
right?
They can't cure you because they're tied to the pharmaceuticals who are designed to make money off of you being sick.
They're drug pushers.
And so, drug pushers.
They get paid for it. They get paid more for pushing certain drugs. Maybe they get an award, some sort of bonus, some sort of you get a car if you push this drug this many times over this. It's just crazy, and people don't see it.
No, they don't see it. But we're waking people up, and I love what you're doing. Absolutely, keep waking people up, waking and shaking. That's what we do, right. And that's the goal of this documentary. The title is The Plain Truth, and it can go in a lot of different directions, but we really want to build the foundation of the realm that we live in and the proof that we have using science, facts, history, as well as all of our subject matter experts. So it is the foundation of everything that we're talking about today.
No, I totally agree. Yep. And, as far as people saying all the great things science did, how can you talk bad about science? Well, like I said, science hasn't done all these great things. Science didn't teach me to go in my backyard and plant things. Flat earthers did. David Weiss taught me to distill my water. Other great content producers have taught me, things that I should do to better my life. And that all happened when I got rid of the ideas that were implanted in my mind from when I was a child. And when I got rid of all the things that I was taught on commercials, and people just don't see that. So to call it dangerous, I think is a joke. So I'm excited about this documentary because, again, like you said, this is kind of meant to go against the Logan Paul mockumentary, which was called To the Edge and Back, I believe. The Behind the Curve documentary. This is going to be a lot different because it comes from the side of a flat earther who's working with flat earthers. And you said that you have experts, right? You've got a surveyor, you've got pilots, you've got ballistic experts, and really exploring it from a flat earther's point of view, right?
Absolutely. And Joshua Michael, my co-director, is a brilliant cinematographer. We are interviewing a lot of grassroots people and their journey and how they came into flat earth, but also we believe truth passes through three phases. You have the mockery, right, which they did in Behind the Curve and Logan Paul. Right. Then you have the violence where, you're dangerous now, Jaron, because right. You're teaching others. That makes you dangerous. So it becomes violent. And then at the end, it's accepted as self-evident. And that is where we have so much information that we are going to try to squeeze into 120 minutes. With that being said, we know we can't do that. So it's going to be a launch pad for a docuseries where we can actually go into these other topics. But the name of the documentary is called The Plain Truth, and it's a triple entendre. You have the plain truth, all of the things in the air, right? The airplane, how it flies straight and level, the gyroscope. You have so many things where the horizon rises to eye level. Right. You have pilots' testimony. They're military and commercial, both. We have both. And then you have everything on the plane, everything air, land, and sea is what we like to say. The plane, the plane, how it always rises to eye level. That being said, but water doesn't curve. I can see Catalina Island from my beach right now, and that's 40 miles away. It should be hidden. No, so we're using their own we're using their own science against them to show them your science doesn't work. We have proven that. And so a lot of times to prove the truth is you have to disprove what they're saying. Right. And the bottom line is most people don't even know what they believe about the globe. We have to teach them that. And then we have to actually show them the evidence that supports a flat earth. Absolutely. And then the final part of that title is The Plain Truth, saying it in a simple way, because you don't have to be a rocket scientist, right? They made us think, well, if you don't understand, the integral and all these different, math equations, this hardcore rocket science, which they title it on purpose that way, so most people can't understand the lingo that they're using. We are going to present it in a way that everybody can go and test for themselves. We have repeatable experiments that they can go in their backyard and test for themselves in a very simple way. And so that's the goal of our documentary. And again, JM Truth Productions, Joshua Michael, my co-director, he is absolutely brilliant. We have amazing writers, we have musicians, we have people who are volunteering their time, and it is ultimately just this collective of really passionate truthers who believe and want, I shouldn't say believe, I don't like that word, who really know the truth about where we live, and we want to tell our side.
Right. No, I totally agree with what you're saying, and the fact that, a lot of people don't know where they think they live. They've just been told by mainstream science. They've been told by their science classes, by their science teachers, by the media, which is another one we didn't even mention earlier when I was getting all the things that are corrupt. Talk about the media and everything that they do to force lies down people's throats and in their minds. But just recently I was listening to Eddie Bravo, who was on with Joe Rogan again, and he's bringing up the 8 inches per mile squared thing, and Joe Rogan's sitting there like, I don't even believe that. I don't think that's what it is. He's like, no. He said in just 100 miles that the amount of curvature is 6,000 feet, and Joe Rogan's like, no, I'm sure you're wrong about that. And it just goes to tell me all the times that Joe Rogan has made fun of flat earthers, talked about how ridiculous it is, and he doesn't even know the equation for the curvature of the earth. So this is just somebody who's simply believing the people ahead of him, believing Neil deGrasse and these guys, and thinking there's no way that they're wrong. And my problem with that is, why isn't he a Hasidic Jew? Why doesn't he look at rabbis and say, well, those rabbis have put a lot more research into that Torah than I have, so I guess since they say I should be a Hasidic Jew, I should, no, he's smart enough to say, well, just because some people believe things doesn't mean he has to. But he's obviously not smart enough to realize that when it comes to the earth, they all go back to what you said. It's like, well, how could so many people be in on it? And it's easier than you think. And maybe we'll never get across that to people, but I'm hoping that your documentary will help.
Absolutely. And I know that when I was in the military, the general does not tell the private what their job is. It's completely compartmentalized.
Right.
And I was in NASA this weekend, and amazingly, I ended up getting to interview, or I got to be in the audience asking a question to Don Pettit.
Oh, boy.
And just the word salad that they use, and it's all absolute nonsense of the technology that we destroyed to get to the moon, but now we're going back in 2024.
Oh, boy.
And people just get so caught up, right? And it's honestly, there's even truthers who believe like 9/11 was an inside job and things like that. But as soon as you start talking about flat Earth, right, they say, oh, that's crazy, because they've been taught that Columbus, when he went to go sail the ocean blue in 1492, that he didn't fall off the edge.
Right.
And so, that's all ingrained in our heads. And so trying to change that narrative for people and say, well, how many people have to be in on it? Like I said, the general doesn't teach the private what's going on. People who work for NASA, they work in compartments.
Right.
They each have certain levels of security clearance. They're not given the whole picture. I'm telling you, there's a very select few people who actually know what's going on, and everybody else thinks it's true. And you can look at the A-bomb, you can look at these different things that happened, Manhattan Project, all these other things where people didn't know what the ultimate goal of it was, but they certainly worked on parts of it.
No, absolutely, yeah. And Don Pettit, he's definitely a piece of work, and yeah, all these. And I've told people before about this whole 2024 thing. You watch, and off to science, it's just so sad that it's always so far ahead. But you can bet your bottom dollar that when it comes to be 2024, it just happens to coincide with the end of Trump's presidency, because I think he'll be easily reelected. I could be wrong there, but when he is reelected, it'll coincide right with the end of that, and the next president will be somebody who will come along and say, oh, I think we should go to Mars, and it will be the same thing. People don't realize this exact activity already happened when we went from Bush to Obama, that Bush was talking about the moon, and then Obama came and said, no, we've already been there, we've already done that, let's go to Mars. And then NASA shifts its gears to going to Mars, and now what happens? Trump comes, says, no, we're going to go to the moon, shift the gears back to the moon. What a waste of money, folks. $56 million a day. Crazy.
That's right.
So,
definitely.
Yeah. I was going to say, Shelley's not even looking for that much money. She's looking for a lot less than that to do this documentary. So
we definitely would love people's support. We are doing this ourselves. We're paying for it ourselves. And through just a lot of generosity of people in the collective, they're helping to fund this and make this happen. Jam Truth has donated $40,000 worth of camera equipment, his time, and not to mention all the countless hours of people inside the collective who are helping. But we do need help getting us to do the interviews, getting to do the experiments, going to Denver, bringing our film crew, interviews, feeding the people that do come on board with us. So it does take money. But one of the things that I love so much is that people are very passionate and they want to help tell our story. So we love all that help and support we can get.
Awesome. And you said you are going to FEIC 2019, correct?
Yes, we are definitely going to be there, and we'll be at we'd love to go to the Amsterdam one and go meet the group over there as well. We have Dave Marsh and, of course, allegedly Dave and a lot of the people from FE Core that we would love to interview. So, we want to go where the story takes us. We want people to tell us their side of the story. So all of that good stuff.
Awesome. And just bringing this up just so everyone can see. Oops, I took it off the screen. So what we are talking about here, did that work? Yep. So this is the Flat Earth International Conference 2019, which will be November 14th to 15th in Dallas, Texas. And we just heard, I don't know if you've ever been watching any of the Owen Benjamin. Oh, there he is. There you go. Owen Benjamin will be performing there live on the Thursday night, I believe it is. Let's see here, date November 14th. I think that's Thursday night. But yeah, get your tickets there. And should be a fun time for everybody. It's going to be hilarious to see him there and hear some of his comedy to mix in with all the great presentations that are going to be going on in Dallas. And yeah, people know I'll be at Lake Shasta this year also for their conference, as well as in Amsterdam for that one. So Shelley, any final words? I do have up on the screen for everyone to see the GoFundMe. So please donate to that if you're interested in helping out with this documentary. Do you have a timeline of when you expect I guess you've already started filming, but when you expect it to come out?
Yeah, so our goal is spring 2020. We are in full production mode. We have writers and we have our producers, we have directors, we have our different Travis Finley. He's our amazing creative director. We have Haya Shalom. She is our program manager. Actually production manager, I should say. And then we have, Drew University is his name. He is our assistant director. We have different producers, Mark Hollander. So I just tell people, look, this is the grassroots, and we have so much expertise. And if you want to help support us, please go to ThePlaneTruthMovie.com and you can find out more information.
And is that Travis from Redhead Radio?
Yeah,
I
Travis
love
Finley
Travis.
from Redhead Radio.
Big shout out to Travis. He also got me in contact with you, so I appreciate that.
Okay, right on.
So
Thanks,
much.
Travis.
Besides the fact that I think you guys did the interview, and then talk about real quick just a little bit about what is FER Live.
FER Live is basically people who want to have their own radio show. It is a platform for you to talk about Flat Earth, talk about health topics similar to what you do. In the light of what YouTube is doing, it is an opportunity for people to still get their message out there, because YouTube is censoring everybody. And there are so many people who are going to be affected. And so FER is a platform that you can go and do your radio show or have a hangout and talk about what you want to talk about. So it's an alternative. Cool.
And then you do a radio show there called Down the Rabbit Hole, correct?
Yeah, Down the Rabbit Hole. And one of the things that really got me in touch with Jamie Lee from ThePlaneTruth.info was the Paradise Fires. And that's another thing we could go into, just how we're being attacked from the skies, land, air, sea, food, water, everything that we do. So that's my platform, Down the Rabbit Hole. There's so many topics to get into.
And when can people catch that show?
It's usually on Wednesday nights with the documentary. I'm having Joshua Michael help with that radio show with me. So about Wednesday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see here. What else do we had to talk about? Any other final words before we probably head out? Again, this has been Shelley Lewis. You can just catch her wherever you want. There's all kinds of links in the description, as we just mentioned, and help out with the movie. I think it's a great thing. I'm going to add you guys as one of my patron, or I'm going to subscribe to you on Patreon for a little bit, help out a little bit with that, and hopefully that helps you a little bit, and hopefully a lot of other people support as well.
Thank you so much, Jaron. I really appreciate it. And I am very thankful that you are a beacon of light for people, being a light bearer and telling people the truth. No, you've definitely put a lot of hours into this. So I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And again, if you guys want to check out Jason Lindgren and Crow 777 on this very channel, on this very show, we're going to do that next Thursday, a week from yesterday, June 13th, and that'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific, so definitely check that out. And then the following Monday, which I can't do the date on that one, 16, 17, what would that be? The 17th. They'll both be on Jeranism Raw. That's with me and David from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. So definitely check that out. Again, you can find Shelley on Facebook very easily. Check out the Flat Earth International Conference. That's at FE 2019. Come see Owen Benjamin perform. That'd be awesome. But if you want to help out with the documentary, again, you can go to patreon.com/ThePlaneTruth. You can go to the fundraiser at GoFundMe.com/the-plane-truth. And yeah, it'd be great. I can't wait to see the documentary, at least this time from a Flat Earther's perspective. And I just didn't show everybody what I was doing. That's great. Almost did it perfect. Anyway, come see Owen Benjamin. Find Shelley Lewis on Facebook. There's the patreon.com/ThePlaneTruth, and there's the fundraiser at GoFundMe.com/the-plane-truth. So yeah, I'm just excited because again, I was definitely misrepresented in the Behind the Curve documentary, unless you want to believe that I proved curve and that the movie ended at the perfect time, right when I said interesting, and like that was the end of our experiments. No, of course not. Talk to anybody that was there. They'll tell you the truth. But again, people want to believe what they want to believe, and if they want to believe they live on a spinning globe, then they'll definitely jump on an opportunity to say, oh, Jaron proved it, therefore it's true, we live on a spinning bowl. I definitely disagree. As far as Super Chats, let me see, I forgot to bring up my Super Chat page. Hopefully we've gotten a few, but maybe we got none. Let me see. Oh, we got 2. Thank you very much. The Earth is Seriously Flat. Same person, $2 and $2. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution for Flat Earth. And solution, teach children how to test the globe. Totally agree. By the way, that's another thing, right? Yeah, you homeschool, correct?
I do.
Yeah, excellent. That's beautiful. I homeschooled my son for 7th and 8th grade. At that point, he wanted to go back to school for high school, which I let him do. But I even think those 2 years of homeschooling him really helped him a lot in the fact that I said, hey, not everything you learn in public school is going to be true. Test everything they say. Don't believe anything. That's something that was never told to me. So I went to public school and went to private schools and was just one of those suckers who believed everything that they said, believed that's the way that you would spread the truth, and never realized that those in power might use those education systems to teach children exactly what they want, not to teach children to come up and take over their positions of power and their wealth.
There you go. Absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely.
So anyway, guys, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much. I want to give one more shout out to
Sure.
David Hunt. He's been a huge help to our production. And I love what you said about homeschooling. We never had that opportunity to even question anything. We were just parrots. And this generation that is rising up from Flat Earth people is a generation that questions things and actually are thinking for themselves. So you're totally right.
Yeah, and questioning things is so dangerous. So I can understand why those in power that don't want you watching channels like this, because we're telling you to question things, and no, that's not good for their pocketbook. That's not good for their mind control. That's not good for anything for them. If you question things, and I've always told people that do your own research. If you come to the conclusion that you live on a spinning ball, that's fine. Go watch all the channels that promote that and enjoy that, and you just won't catch me over there. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I'll keep talking about what I believe, talking with interesting people like Shelley, open-minded people who have healed themselves holistically. That's the kind of stuff I'm interested. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to talk about. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to present. If you don't like it, get off. Get off my channel. Go somewhere else. Doesn't bother me. I'll be fine. But again, if you do like it, then support what you like, because it might go away. So if you want to support me, you can do so at PayPal.me/Jaron. You can become a patron at patreon.com/Jeranism, or you can go to Venmo, which is an easy way to do it if you have that. Not very many people have it, but I've gotten a few donations, mostly from David Weiss, sending me $6.66 for some reason at Jeranism. So he says, don't be afraid of that number, and I agree. It's all just mind control. So a big shout out to my patrons as always, and a big shout out to Shelley. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Shelley. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jaron.
All right, guys, and if you want to send me an email, you can do that too at Jeranism, P.O. Box 3044, Merced, California 95344. And as always, I thank Shelley for joining me, and I remind you guys to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism and Shelley. Peace!